Hello and thanks for joining us for our mid-morning edition of Arirang News. I'm Mark Broom. Let's start by taking a look at the day's headlines. South Korea remains in the icy grips of an intense cold snap. Temperatures plunge to minus 20 degrees Celsius in some regions. Throw in the wind and it feels even colder. Rare bipartisanship in South Korea's National Assembly, but not without a few bumps along the way. Lawmakers pass a bill to boost industrial safety. However, a bill aimed at clamping down on accounting fraud at kindergartens, that stalls. Plus, a wild day on US markets just 24 hours after the Dow posts its biggest single session points gain in decades. We have a rundown of all the market action on Wall Street and in Europe. So let's start with the big chill causing us all to shiver here in South Korea. It's another bitterly, bitterly cold morning with the lows dropping well into the double negative digits for most of the central region. Parts of Gangwon-do province to the east, they saw the mercury plunge to a bone-chilling minus 20 degrees Celsius a few hours ago. Seoul wasn't much better at minus 14. In fact, the only part of the country that isn't sub-freezing as we speak is the southern island of Jeju. The frigid conditions are expected to have the country in their grip for at least the next few days, and be aware that the wind because that's going to make it feel even colder than it actually is. Bundle up with extra layers when heading out. Another option would be, if you can, to try and stay indoors. Now, despite it being freezing cold, over 80 bills were passed on Thursday night during the National Assembly's last plenary session of the year. Despite hours of delays and the rival parties remaining deeply at odds over a number of issues, lawmakers were able to strike a last-minute deal to get at least some agendas rolling. Our National Assembly correspondent Kim Min-ji with the details.
South Korea's National Assembly passed a revision to the Occupational Safety and Health Act on Thursday during its final plenary session of 2018. It means contractors will have to take measures to better ensure safety for irregular contract workers and will ban the outsourcing of dangerous work. In the case of an industrial accident, stronger penalties will be imposed, such as increased jail time of up to 3 years for the contractor, triple what it is now. The revision comes in the wake of an accident at a local power plant that claimed the life of a contract worker after he was caught in a conveyor belt. The specifics of the revised bill were subject to debate among the rival parties. However, the main opposition Liberty Korea party made some concessions after the ruling Democratic Party accepted a demand of theirs. That is to convene a meeting of the Assembly Steering Committee to question key Chung-in officials over recent allegations of civilian surveillance at the presidential office. A special inspector from the prosecution claimed he illegally gathered information on many civilians while working for the top office, with a probe currently underway on the matter. The meeting will take place next Monday with the presidential chief of staff and top secretary for civil affairs, whom the main opposition accuses of playing a role in attendance. But no deal was reached over bills aimed at boosting transparency and rooting out accounting fraud at kindergartens. Instead, the National Assembly's Education Committee designated them as fast-track legislation, which means they can be put up for a full floor vote without deliberation after 330 days. Bills can be designated as fast-track if they fail to get partisan support, with 3/5 of the vote at the relevant standing committee. The Liberty Korea party was against it, but the ruling party had enough votes thanks to support from the minor opposition. Despite hiccups along the way, the rival parties avoided the shame of leaving the December extraordinary session empty-handed. They also passed over 80 non-contested bills, including one on giving monthly child allowances to parents with children aged 6 or under regardless of their income, as well as another on curbing harassment at the workplace. Rival lawmakers also extended the terms of non-standing parliamentary committees that were set to expire this month. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Also, during Thursday's plenary session, lawmakers passed a bill to help defectors from North Korea. It will extend the deadline for them to apply for resettlement benefits when they arrive here from 1 year to 3. Those who didn't come straight from North Korea but lived abroad for 10 years or more will now be eligible for housing subsidies like other refugees and priority for public housing as well. The same will apply to those who missed the 3-year window to apply. The one-time cash subsidy paid to single refugees when they arrive will be raised from $6,000 to more than $7,000. This year, as of November, the number of North Koreans who defected to the south was 1,042. That's 3 people fewer than the same period last year. South Korea's business sentiment index for December has fallen to its lowest level in more than 2 years. Data released by the Bank of Korea on Friday shows the index dropped 2 points from the previous month to 72. A reading below 100 means there are more pessimists than optimists on the local economy. An official cited a sharp drop in sentiment among businesses in the chemical sector. They said demand for their goods had slowed amid the US-China trade war. The prolonged slump in the construction and auto sectors also drove down sentiment in the metal industries. Industrial output across all sectors in South Korea edged up 0.2% in November compared to the same month last year. Statistics Korea says the on-year increase is mainly due to an improvement in the services sector, which ticked up 1% last month. The agency also cited output in the mining and manufacturing sectors, which edged up 0.1% on year in November. However, facility investment plunged 10% compared to the same period last year, mainly due to a drop in machinery production. The military authorities of South Korea and Japan held a video conference on Thursday to discuss Tokyo's claim that a South Korean destroyer locked onto a Japanese patrol aircraft. The South Korean Navy flatly denies that claim, saying it was using radar for its normal operations. The conference was attended by working-level military authorities from the 2 countries. According to Seoul's defense ministry, the atmosphere was friendly and sincere as the 2 sides looked to analyze facts and dispel any misunderstandings. The 2 countries decided to continue working-level consultations on the matter. Now, we've almost reached the end of a year in which North Korea hasn't tested any nuclear bombs or long-range missiles, a testament to the improved ties not only between the 2 Koreas, but also the North and the United States. However, experts are warning the lack of tests doesn't mean weapons development isn't going on behind the scenes. Lee Seung-jae with more.
After its nuclear tests in September 2017 and its last missile launch a month later, North Korea stopped all weapons tests in 2018, thanks to warmer ties between the 2 Koreas, and even President Trump going from calling Kim Jong-un Little Rocket Man to saying how he fell in love with Kim. It looks as though the Korean Peninsula is on the path to peace. However, according to a report by NBC News, experts are pointing out that while the big displays of aggression may have ceased, other, more subtle parts of North Korea's weapons program continue apace. A research fellow at a London-based think tank told NBC News that Kim Jong-un has not changed his policy, but has moved from research and development to mass production. According to the latest analysis of satellite images, the North is still producing fissile material and building missile bases around the country. To many, this comes as no surprise, as the transition from testing to production was something the North Korean leader told the world he would do during his New Year's Day address. Kim claimed his scientists and engineers had completed all their trials, and they should now mass-produce nuclear warheads and ballistic missiles. At the current rate of production, a Washington-based think tank projects the North could have around 100 nuclear warheads by 2020, almost half the size of Britain's stockpile. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South and North Korea held a special groundbreaking ceremony this week to highlight their shared desire to eventually link and modernize their railways and roads. But before any actual construction can get underway, it's crucial to know the exact condition of railways and roads in the north. The two sides also need to consider how to make it an effective transport network. Oh Jung-hee reports.
North Korean leader Kim Chung-in once spoke very frankly about the status of the regime's transportation system. That was at his first summit with South Korean President Moon Jae-in back in April.
Chairman Kim said that he is concerned, to be honest, that things could be quite uncomfortable for President Moon when he visits North Korea due to poor local transportation systems. He added it could be quite embarrassing.
And such remark has been verified by South Korean inspectors who went to the north for rail surveys. They found trains there can go about 20 to 60 kilometers an hour. Tracks where trains don't run regularly have deteriorated, while some sections can't allow high speeds because of steep hills, curves, tunnels, and bridges.
The rail condition isn't too good, and we thought it would be impossible for trains to run at high speed. The case is similar for the Western rails.
Roads are in similar or worse conditions. Among different modes of transport, North Korea depends on railways by up to 86%, on roads by 12%, and sea travel by 2%. Roads have been less highlighted as SOCs and less developed than railways because of the regime's economic focus on heavy industries and the high cost. In contrast, South Korea has a road-centered transport network enabling free movement of people and goods. The stark difference between the two Koreas' transport networks suggests that the two sides should focus on preventing ineffectiveness in logistics connections. For example, when they operated their joint factory park, the Kaesong Industrial Complex, the South Korean items had to be carried by truck, by train, and then by truck again to enter the complex. The situation also prompts another question. How and to what extent should North Korea's railways and roads be, quote, modernized?
If more roads are created and railways are upgraded in the north, then more goods and passengers will come and go, which will lead to a demand for higher speed and better technology. How to replace the existing poor railway system, set communication facilities, and provide electricity is what really needs to be considered.
Linking and upgrading the inter-Korean transport network could take decades and cost an astronomical amount of money. But the economic benefits are expected to outweigh the cost, being over $2.5 billion for the next 30 years, just for linking the Western railways. And above all, experts point out the transport connection could lead Pyongyang to gradually open up its economy. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
South Korean presidential advisor Moon Chung-in says 2019 could be even more dynamic than this year in terms of developments on the Korean Peninsula. He told Arirang TV that dialogue between the two Koreas and the US has built trust, and he expressed an optimistic outlook for next year. He also emphasized that it was President Moon Jae-in's role as mediator that led the political transition, adding he will continue to persuade North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and US President Donald Trump to achieve the regime's full denuclearization. If you'd like to check out the interview in full yourself, make sure you tune in to Arirang TV on Sunday at 7 a.m. Korea time. Now, it was a case of severe whiplash for US stocks on Thursday. They did recover huge losses incurred during the day and, in fact, ended up continuing record gains from the day before. In Europe, however, it wasn't much of an exciting session. In fact, most of them, if not all of the major ones, dropped on Thursday. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Arirang. So Arirang, just fill us in on Thursday's market action.
Well, Mark, the day's trading session started with a massive sell-off, mostly sparked by weak US consumer confidence data for December. Trading seesawed throughout the day, with the Dow plunging more than 600 points at one point before clawing back losses late in the afternoon. This allowed Wall Street to continue its rally from Wednesday, when the Dow Jones posted its highest gains in a decade. The Dow ended Thursday's session nearly 1.1% higher to close at just under 23,140. The Nasdaq was up about 0.4% and the S&P 500 gained close to 0.9%. However, it wasn't the same story, as you said, over in Europe. London's FTSE 100 closed 1.5% lower. Germany's DAX was down a whopping 2.4%, and France's CAC 40 edged down 0.6%. In other news, US President Donald Trump has claimed that most of the people not getting paid in the ongoing US government shutdown are Democrats. In a Thursday tweet, he once again stressed his need for funds to build his border wall with Mexico, saying Democrats are the ones who are actually suffering financially from the impasse. His tweet comes a day after he claimed many federal workers support his call for more border wall funding and are also willing to stay on unpaid leave. Democrats criticized Trump's tweet, arguing that federal workers are not the partisans the president has made them out to be. An earthquake triggered by an erupting Mount Etna in Sicily has reportedly injured nearly 30 people and displaced some 600 others. The 4.8 magnitude tremor has caused severe damage to buildings across a broad area near Catania. An Italian news outlet reported that an 80-year-old man was pulled from the rubble in his house. Out of those injured, 10 are said to be hospitalized.
If you've been watching our news bulletins for the past few days, you'll know that title we just saw there means it's top 10 stories of the year time. We're going to start with the weather we experienced in South Korea in 2018. The summer, if you're watching us in Korea, you'll remember how that was just unbearably hot. In fact, it was one of the hottest on record, with the mercury topping 40 degrees Celsius in some areas for quite a long period of time. Fine dust as well continued to dominate the headlines, and sadly, a solution to the public health crisis remains out of reach. Chung-in reports.
여름에 너무 더워서 스트레스도 많이 받고 조금 버티기 힘들었던.
여름도 에어컨 평소엔 잘 안 틀었는데 올해는 좀 더 많이 틀은 것 같고.
미세먼지가 날이 갈수록 심해지는 것 같아서 마스크 끼지 않고는 돌아다니기 힘든.
특히나 서울은 미세먼지 되게 심하죠. 어떻게 하면 이 미세먼지가 좀 더 심해지지 않을까 이런 고민을.
Unexpected weather like the heat wave this past summer and the fine dust in the air causes people stress and even threatens their health. In August, Hongcheon in Gangwon-do province saw temperatures reach 41 degrees Celsius, while the capital Seoul got up to nearly 40 degrees. People suffered heat-related illness, dozens died, and the prices of fruit and vegetables shot up.
There were 6 regions that saw temperatures soar to 40. This is noteworthy because meteorologically, summers that get above 40 degrees happen in a tropical climate. This could be a sign that Korea's summer climate is turning tropical.
The problem in winter was fine dust pollution. People had to refrain from outdoor activities, and an increasing number of people suffered respiratory illnesses.
The fine dust level had gone down until 2012, but it started to rebound recently, due mainly to China's rapid industrialization. It's also because of cars and coal heating.
The Korean government has stepped up to combat the fine dust. Next year, when levels get really bad, nearly 2.7 million cars will be banned from the roads. The government's also going to get rid of incentives for so-called clean diesel cars, and it will work with neighboring countries such as China. People are hoping that in the new year, the air will be cleaner and the summer heat less extreme. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Now, we couldn't have one of these lists about 2018 without talking about Brexit. It was the year that Britain was finally going to hash out details of its plans to leave the European Union, but those efforts have not gone smoothly, to say the least. Continuing our series on the top 10 world news stories of 2018, our Kwon Jang-ho takes a look back at how far or how little, as the case may be, Brexit has come over the last 12 months.
Whichever way you voted in the referendum, most people just want the government to get on and deliver a good Brexit. And that's exactly what we are doing.
That was British Prime Minister Theresa May's New Year's Day message at the start of 2018. But 12 months later, it's still not clear whether the UK is any closer to that good Brexit. Months of debate and political wrangling, during which one Foreign Secretary, 2 Brexit secretaries and 6 other government ministers quit over Brexit, finally came to a head at the end of the year after May presented a withdrawal deal to the European Union in November. The draft satisfied EU leaders, with German Chancellor Angela Merkel even describing it as a diplomatic piece of art. But back home, it was a completely different story. A House of Commons vote on the withdrawal agreement in December was called off after it became clear that an embarrassing majority of MPs would have voted against it. May suffered another crisis a day later when rebel members from her own party called for a vote of no confidence. She survived, but her reputation took a significant hit. The main point of contention is the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. There is so far no solution that will satisfy all parties, and with the Brexit deadline of March 29th fast approaching, the possibility of a no-deal Brexit is rising, which could cause chaos for cross-border trade and travel. The European Court of Justice offered up another way out in December after ruling that the UK has the right to revoke its decision to leave the EU. But Downing Street has ruled out a second referendum, and crucially, the leader of the opposition Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, a Eurosceptic himself, has also been reluctant to go down that path. Other possibilities, such as a delayed Brexit or a general election, still exist, but there is only one thing that is for certain. Theresa May will not be Prime Minister after May 2022, after she confirmed she would not run again in a general election.
I've said that, in my heart, I would love to be able to lead the Conservative Party into the next general election, but I think it is right that the party feels that it would prefer to go into that election with a new leader.
Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Good morning. Many regions saw the coldest temperatures of the season this morning. Cold wave alerts have been expanded to more areas, while a heavy snow advisory is in place for the Jeollado provinces and parts of Jeju Island and the Korea's easternmost islands of Dokdo and Ulleung-do. It's been snowing in those areas since yesterday evening, and Ulleung-do has seen nearly 14 centimeters of snowfall so far. But more snow is on the way between now and tomorrow, while the Jeollado provinces could see between 1 and 7 centimeters of snowfall through this afternoon. The rest of the country will be under clear blue skies. Daily highs will be similar or a tad higher than yesterday, getting up to -4 degrees Celsius here in the capital. Chuncheon will get up to -3 degrees. The piercing cold will remain throughout the weekend, and we'll have to wait until next Monday to see temperatures become a bit more bearable. That's Korea for you, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now. Do stay tuned to us here on Arirang TV, and a reminder that we will have our next newscast coming up at noon Korea time with our very own Lee Ji-yoon. So until then, goodbye.